Whoa. Oh, my aching back. Ugh. Ugh. Hello everybody, my name is Platinum Warpstar, or as the drunks like to call me, Titanium Walrus. You know, the gaming industry has been awfully boring lately, so you know what? I'm just gonna sit down and watch TV.
The pack is back, goes chomping at his feet, Pac's our hero.
Oh crap.
The pack is back! For real this time. Now, I've been wanting a remake of Pac-Man World for a really long time now, or at least have Pac-Man World come back in some form or fashion. The arcade stuff is great, but I always really liked it when Pac-Man attempted the platformer genre. He works surprisingly well with it. I played a lot of the first Pac-Man World and Pac-Man World 2 as a kid, so I have a lot of nostalgia for them. Oh, wait, not this PS1 version of Pac-Man World. I'm talking about the GBA version. Well, all of this has put me in a Pac-Man mood. Surprisingly enough, the original Pac-Man is the earliest game I remember ever playing, so I'm pretty sure it's the first game I ever played, but I could be wrong about that. So before I can pack off to Pac-Man World Re-Pac, let's sit down and rank 14 different Pac-Man games for the hell of it. All coming from the very recent Pac-Man Museum Plus. I'm mainly going to be talking about the games themselves, but I'll give this release a quick look real quick. It's fine. There's a lot of things that could have been handled better, but it's a very attractive package for $20. It has a cool custom arcade feature that you can run around using the engine that Pac-Man World Re-Pac is going to be using, so that's fun. You can earn tokens by playing games, which can either be used as credits for the arcade titles, or use them to get a chance at scoring your favorite Pac-Man character figures. The emulation is a little spotty though. I'm playing on PC, which seems to be the most stable version, but I've heard horror stories of input delay on Xbox and Switch. Plus, the pixel scaling for most games is not entirely accurate, so it doesn't give the games a full pixel perfect look. It makes some games look very distracting to look at, and there's a lack of options in the game to fix these issues. And while the borders do look nice, you can't turn them off if you want to play with nothing but a black background. Plus, the games here with UI elements and sprites in 720p do not look too hot on a 1080p monitor. This is probably the way to go to play these games on modern consoles, but you could probably get these games running better on other collections and other methods. That being said, let's rank 14 Pac-Man games on a tier list, because Pac is cool.
So welcome one and all to my stupidly long video where I rank every single game in Pac-Man Museum Plus. It's gonna be a ride. And also, this is not just gonna be a ranking channel. I know the last video I made was also a ranking video, but this is just a coincidence that I'm doing another one. So without further ado, let's talk about the very first Pac-Man game.
Well, the one that started everything. Pac-Man, if you somehow don't know, is a game where you navigate a dark maze attempting to eat every Pac-Dot while 4 ghosts run around trying to defeat you. But if you munch a power pellet, you can turn around and eat the ghosts to earn more points and send them back to where they came from temporarily. Pac-Man has to be one of, if not the most gracefully aged video game in history. This game is 42 years old, yet playing it today, it is still as fun as ever. If you think about it, a lot of times, most game franchises have their first entry feel dated in at least some way compared to modern releases. Mario 1 can't have you walk backwards and takes a bit of time to get used to controlling. Anything past Green Hill Zone in Sonic 1 feels like it was made for a completely different game. And Mega Man 1 has slippery controls and weird falling physics. Pac-Man today is still as fun as it was all those years back. If it was released today, I would still say it is at least pretty good, which is really impressive for a game of its age. But why do I think this game is still super good? Well, it comes down to a number of different things. In summary, I think it's one of the best examples of a game that is simple to understand but hard to master, on top of a satisfying game feel with a pleasing aesthetic. The pixel art is nice and colorful. I like the designs for each of the characters in-game, and the sounds are therapeutic. Munching on Pac Dots gives you a sense of satisfaction that makes you want to eat more. The noise the ghosts make as they roam around the maze, gradually increasing in speed as the game moves faster, fills you with anxiety so you want to stay away from them. The noise coming out of Pac-Man as he dies is comedic, but also lets you know that you did a bad. And getting a power pellet immediately gives you a noise of empowerment, as all of the ghosts turn blue, and chomping down on them has immense impact as you get more and more points. Seriously, getting 1600 points from eating all the ghosts on the map feels amazing. As you play more, you start to notice all of these things that help you learn and improving your skill at the game. Like if you notice, all of the walls in the maze have curved edges. This was done intentionally because if you hold the direction you want to turn before you reach the edge of the wall, you'll actually cut the corner and make the turn slightly faster, which gives you an advantage when running from ghosts. On top of that, each ghost has a very unique and geniusly designed AI. Blinky is fast and aggressive, he's always the first one to come out. Inky keeps his distance but will try to cut you off. Pinky follows you more closely than the other ghosts. And Clyde stays the farthest away from you and typically runs away, but if you get close to him, he'll go after you when you least expect it. Not to mention that the farther in you get, the harder the game becomes. As the game speed rises, the ghosts become more unpredictable, and even the amount of time you have to eat the ghost after nabbing a power pellet becomes disgustingly short after a while, making you have to be much more strategic in your timing of getting a power pellet. It's a geniusly designed game, even all of these years later. One that will forever gobble your quarters more than Pac-Man will gobble his tater tots. I'm not going to say it's the best video game ever made, but for the time period it was made in and for how well it holds up all these years later, I feel like I'd be doing it a bit of a disservice if I didn't slam it in the S tier. I know that might sound kinda cheesy because it's the first game, but it's honestly how I feel. Pac-Man really has stood the test of time. It succeeds in areas where most games that have come after it have felt dated. I feel like I'd give Mario 1 a bit of a lower ranking, like a B tier or something, since there are parts of that game that I feel haven't aged well, despite it still being a very quality game and still being fun today. Anyways, enough of the Pac-Man versus Mario debate. Let's move on.
Well, that wasn't too bad. I wonder what's next. Hold on, Mr. Watson. What? My name is Mr. Super. Eh? I use the ability to transform in a game. Super. Witness as I now transform a game that you just played into something super. Very clever.
When I went into this, I thought it was going to be like an extended version of Pac-Man with like different mazes and stuff. This game is completely different from the original. It more so acts like one of those sequels to Pac-Man in a way. Instead of trying to eat all of the Pac Dots in a maze, in Super Pac-Man you need to grab keys to unlock gates so you can munch all of the food in a stage, which were previously extra points in the original game if you could get to the center of the map fast enough when they appear. Where the name Super Pac-Man comes from is that unlike power pellets that let you eat ghosts, there are also super pellets that will let you turn into Super Pac-Man and eat gates in a level and pass by ghosts. Yeah, all of this is neat and all, but I vastly prefer the original game. It's not even close. I don't think it's bad, but I have a number of problems with this one. I applaud the attempt to put a fresh spin on the Pac-Man maze gameplay, and I'm sure it must have been difficult to do back in '82, but this ain't it for me. For one, I do not think the sound design is anywhere as good as Pac-Man and Miss Pac-Man, which were both released before it. Yeah, you have the waka waka noise there that plays twice every time you eat food, but the power pellet noise isn't anywhere near as satisfying, and chomping down on a ghost has nowhere near the same impact it did in the original. Also, every time a bonus appears in the middle, this obnoxious twinkling noise starts playing and it doesn't stop until you get it. Maybe that was the point, to ensure that you want to go for it, but I don't know, I think I had plenty of reason to go after the bonus fruit in the original game. Despite all of that, I just don't find the gameplay loop of grabbing keys and then munching the things inside of those gates that fun. It's fine, but the original was way more addicting, far more tightly designed, and had a much better game feel with its impressive use of audio instead of all this stuff in Super Pac-Man. I'm giving it a C tier. That doesn't make it bad, but I don't think the changes made here elevate it to any kind of level that's close to the original Pac-Man.
Well, that was certainly a game. I wonder what could possibly be next.
Hello, Pac-Man World. My name is Miro. Can I come on your way?
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Pac and Pal. They're really trying everything to put a twist on this yellow sphere. Yet another sequel to Pac-Man, and it's the most different from all of them so far. There are a number of cards scattered across the level, and flipping them over will unlock a certain portion of the map, containing an item that you need to collect. Once you get all of them, you beat the level. There are no power pellets in Pac-Pal, surprisingly. Instead, there are certain power-ups that when you push the button, will stun nearby ghosts in specific ways. But alongside the 4 iconic ghosts, we now have a new character, the Pal character mentioned in the title. She's perfectly safe and is also trying to collect the items in the level, but she isn't doing it for you, it's for her own personal gains. Hang on, aren't you supposed to be my pal? I feel betrayed!
You're not my pal at all, you disgusting little green booger.
Occasionally, a bonus round appears and you'll need to flip over all the cards with money and the POW character on it for maximum points. But be careful which ones you pick or else you'll— God damn it, Blinky! This one's also just okay. It's better than Super Pac-Man, but I'd still rather play the original Pac-Man, so C tier.
And then they try making a 2D platformer.
It's only been 4 years, and Pac-Man is already making his attempts at a 2D platformer. I'm curious to see how this will end. And you know what? Pac-Land is surprisingly good. I thought this was going to be some low-effort, dated 2D platformer, but this game's a lot better than I expected. Basically, Pac-Man has a little fairy friend inside of his hat, and every day he makes a trip to go see the mother fairy and return the small fairy to the big one, and then he has to make it all the way back home. Each trip contains 4 levels, 3 on the way to the mother fairy, and 1 level running back with the infinite jump boots that she haseth bestoweth unto thoueth. I don't think the controls are all too great, though this was an era before the magical D-pad was perfected, so I'll cut it some slack. You need to mash a direction until you are running at max speed towards the direction you want to go, and depending on how fast you are running, you are able to jump higher. Again, this was before Super Mario Bros. Hit the scene, so I'll cut it slack for having a bizarre control scheme. Despite that, I think the game feels surprisingly good to play. Pac-Man has a nice jump arc, and the level design is simplistic enough to accommodate for the limitations of the control scheme, and the levels increase in difficulty at a nice rate so they're manageable by the time you have the controls down. The only time I think the controls are really annoying are these springs that you have to time your jump off of, and then rapidly mash right so you can glide across the water pits. That's really annoying. There surprisingly aren't a whole lot of Pac-Man elements in this game. There are no Pac-Dots whatsoever, but the power pellet is still here so you can eat ghosts when they get in your way. But that, the fact that you play as Pac-Man, and the high score nature of Pac-Man are the only things that resemble the original. And given the previous attempts at changing up Pac-Man, I'm okay with this, honestly. The presentation is also nice, probably blew people away at the time. The stages have a unique drawing-like aesthetic to them that still looks pretty nice. I also think the music also contributes to the general atmosphere of the game, like the trip to the ferry having an adventurous theme to them. And the run back gives you the urge to rush back with the infinite jump boots you have on. I like Pac-Land. I'll give it a B tier. Despite the genre change, it still feels like it's a Pac-Man game. For their first go at a platforming game, I'd say it went surprisingly well. It has some problems, and it isn't a game I'd want to boot up the collection just to play, but it's like, okay, alright, this is a good game, it's appealing, I'll play it while I'm here at an arcade. Hang on a second, who is this?
Hang on, just a wrinkly old nipple. That's not Miss Pac-Man. What did they do to Miss Pac-Man? Who the fuck is this? Pac-Mom? Okay, so in actuality, the reason Miss Pac-Man is not here is because of the worst thing that can happen to gaming, licensing.
Happiest days of my life. Time
So currently, due to legal issues, Miss Pac-Man is currently partially owned by the dreaded company known as At-Games. And in case you don't know who At-Games is, consider yourself lucky. But for those who don't know, At-Games is that company that makes some of the worst plug-and-play consoles that has ever had the misery of being shoved onto a shelf. It has extremely poor emulation and terrible sound, and all the grandparents get fooled by that low price tag, so they fly off the shelves for little Jimmy to have for Christmas because it's cheap, it can last them for hours, and is very appealing for the price. But what they don't know is that the quality of them is shit. And currently, this company owns part of the rights to Miss Pac-Man, so every time Namco wants to use Miss Pac-Man for something, they gotta give them a little bit of money. Now, Namco is like a multi-million, multi-billion dollar company. They could easily get the rights to Miss Pac-Man. But there's been so much controversy regarding At-Games. Does Namco really want to give them the satisfaction of giving them their super money so they can get Miss Pac-Man back? I mean, it'd probably be worth it, but I can understand why they wouldn't want to. Anyway, that's a Miss Pac-Man rant out of the way. I just thought I'd mention it. Well, I'm glad that they settled on a good direction for the Pac-Man series. Hey Warpy, guess what? They made another maze game.
Well, looks like we're back to the maze stuff again. Let's see what they did this time. Oh. Okay. See, now this right here is how you switch things up with the classic maze gameplay. Pac-Mania goes back to the classic dot-munching gameplay we all know and love back in 1980, but applies a unique spin and a fresh coat of paint to it. The first thing you'll notice is the new visual style. And yeah, I can't blame you. The game goes for a 3D perspective now, and for a game back in 1987, this must have fucking blown people's minds. Of course, nowadays we all know that this game still uses 2D sprites with a much higher resolution, and if you didn't know that, sorry to break the illusion? But it still looks great to this day. That's a pattern I'm noticing with these games. They all still hold up graphically. But despite looking different, this game also has a number of gameplay elements to make it play differently as well. For one, since we're in a 3D perspective, Pac-Man can now jump over the ghosts, which acts sort of like a dodge ability in a way. You might be thinking this makes the game easier. but I'd slap your wrist because you're wrong. Since this game is on much more powerful hardware, there are now a much higher number of ghosts that appear, like these green trailing ghosts and Sue. Things can get pretty chaotic very quickly if you aren't paying attention. And yes, the Ghost AI is still intact here. Heck, there's even a neat visual detail on Inky where his eyes alternatively wobble up and down since he's the unpredictable one. The other few things to mention is that since the full maze isn't displayed on screen, there's now a notification whenever an item appears in the center, which is an appreciated design choice so the players know when to make a beeline for the fruit or other power-ups. And yeah, some power-ups return, like the classic power pellet, and new ones like a power pellet that multiplies the amount of points you get from eating ghosts by 4, which makes shit like this incredibly satisfying, a pellet that increases your speed, and some more I didn't even mention. And holy fucking shit, this soundtrack slaps! Yeah, Pac-Mania is great, a nice evolution of the maze formula, goes in a comfortable A tier for me. Now you might be wondering why it isn't an S tier. Well, I do feel that it is a bit slower than the original game, which isn't a bad thing by any means, but since the original game has a much smaller maze scale, it feels like you can feel the impact of tearing your way through corners of the maze in the original and noticing the progress you've made the more Pac Dots you eat, that I don't really feel that much in Pac-Mania. Again, it isn't a bad thing, but I just feel like it barely lands Pac-Mania outside of an S tier. Still, I recommend playing this one, it's a lot of fun to come back to.
Gary? Are you playing those fucking video games again?
Sorry, Dad, I'm just playing Tetris.
Tetris, Puyo Puyo, Call of Duty, I don't care what the fuck it is. The only video game we accept in this house is Pac-Man, because that is the OG, and that is totally the first video game ever made. So take this as a puzzle game with Pac-Man in it, you absolute fool!
God damn it, Dad, what the fuck?
Pac-Attack is the classic puzzle game adaptation for Pac-Man. For some reason, they used the SNES version of this game in this collection as opposed to the superior PS1 version. I don't know why, but I guess this is what we're dealing with. It is surprising how well they actually managed to translate Pac-Man into a puzzle game. Basically, you place down blocks and ghosts, and you can score points by either creating a horizontal line of blocks just like Tetris, or by making a path of ghosts, and when Pac-Man comes along, you can place him in a spot to eat the ghost depending on what direction he's facing, and he'll go munching until he has no other place to go. There's a basic score attack mode with different adjustable levels of speed, and there's also a puzzle mode where you have to eat all of the ghosts with the amount of Pac-Men that you have. Pretty fun. The music's also good. Yeah, I don't have much else to say about this one. I'm not a puzzle game master or anything, so I don't really know what else to say. The only puzzle games I really like to play consistently are Tetris and occasionally Puyo Puyo. So for those craving a new type of puzzle game to get into, Pac-Attack is a solid puzzle game. I think this is probably the best way to handle a Pac-Man themed puzzle game, so I'm going to give it a B tier because while there's nothing really wrong with it, I don't think it's one of the best Pac-Man games or anything. Also, I kinda think a story mode would keep me engaged and want to get better. Maybe if they make a sequel one day, who knows. Although multiplayer is here, so hey, if you want to get good at this and compete against another puzzle game enthusiast, this is a good one.
Yeah, surely Dad can't get mad at me about this. This is Super Mario World. This is as classic can get. I love 2D platforming, man.
Jerry, this isn't Pac-Man. What the fuck are you doing?
Man, it's fucking Mario. Calm your tits.
You lied, bitch. That's 1995. There's only one true classic mascot. So take this goddamn 2D platform, you son of a bitch.
Oh my, we're attempting another Pac-Man platformer, are we? Except on the Super Nintendo. Well, I liked Pac-Land, so let's see how a home console Pac-Man platformer fares. Our story here is that... Why is this collection using the Japanese ROM? There's an English version! You don't need to use this translator stuff! Anyways, our story here is that the evil Ghost Witch has been kept from causing havoc thanks to Pac-Man's heroic duties. But she's had quite enough of this yellow sack's roundness, so she sends him back in time, away from his family, to a world that doesn't know what Pac-Man even is. The process also happens to transform Pac-Man into a kid again. So yes guys, we saw him as a kid before this thing. Anyways, Pac-Man's gotta fetch all the pellets and go back to his timeline or something. I don't like Pac-In-Time. I'm sorry to all of the Pac-In-Time enthusiasts or the people who grew up with the game, having it be your childhood or something, but I don't really like this one. What we have here are multiple levels sending Pac-Man into a giant maze, and in order to finish them, you have to go and get every single Pac dot in a level, much like in the original, but I don't find that concept very fun in a 2D platformer. Once you get all of the Pac dots, the exit opens up and you can leave. So this game is basically a collect-a-thon before the genre was popularized. There are 4 different power-ups that Pac-Man can find and use to help him traverse the level and defeat enemies, like a fireball attack or the ability to swim. Once you get these, you can swap between them with the push of the shoulder buttons. So, okay, that's fine. The saving grace of this game is the grappling hook. There's a reason it's featured on the game's artwork. This thing's physics are too much fun to mess around with, and it's admittingly very addicting to swing back and forth with enough speed to pull yourself onto a platform above. And you can get some fun speed with this thing too. I'd imagine Pac-In-Time speedruns are interesting to watch. Other than that though, I am not really a fan of the controls. Pac-Man just feels far too light, and I get that he's supposed to be a bouncy little ball, but I think games like Pac-Land and the future Pac-Man World games feel much weightier and thus a lot more satisfying to control. That, and while I feel the fireball is relatively easy to use, the hammer has really bad hit detection from my experience. You have to be spot on to hit an enemy with this thing. And 9 times out of 10, I would take damage whenever I try to use this thing to kill an enemy. On top of that, this game sounds way too muffly and quiet for my liking. Some sound effects kind of feel like my ears might be clogged, and goodness, the World 1 music track. It's not a bad track at all, but you'll be hearing it for a lengthy period of time because it plays during the intro, the title screen, and the entirety of World 1. It isn't until World 2 where we finally get to hear a different song, and by that point I just don't want to play the game anymore. Maybe it gets much better in like World 3 or something, but I just don't really care for this one, I'm sorry to say. I'm going to put this in the first D tier of the day. While it isn't a terrible game by any stretch of the imagination, I just think there are several better games to play on the Super Nintendo, including Pac-Attack and Super Mario World and...
Goodness gracious, the Pac-Man series has already gone all over the place. We have a 2D platformer, we already have a puzzle game, and then we have another 2D platformer. What are they gonna do next? What are they arranging? A dinner party?
Dude, this game, wow. In 1996, we were gifted to us on this multicolored space rock an arcade game called Pac-Man Arrangement. There is a ghost named Kinky in it. Pac-Man Arrangement is legitimately fantastic. On the surface, it may just look like another Pac-Man game with another graphical overhaul, but this game throws so many cool ideas at you that spices up the maze gameplay in fun and creative ways. And yeah, look at how gorgeous this game is. Okay, I know it's just Pac-Man, but it's been given a very pleasing 32-bit coat of paint with smooth new animations for all of the characters, and even the Pac dots swirl around rhythmically with such personality, and it gives the game a look that you just don't want to take your eyes away from. The music is also super great too. It's not filled with the rocking beats of Pac-Mania, but given the audio quality of this game, the music in this game is just as good as Pac-Mania's in my opinion. The game feels very fast due to the smaller scale and the animation for cutting corners returning in glorious fashion. Also, now whenever you eat a ghost, the game doesn't pause anymore. Normally, I feel like that would make eating ghosts leave much less of an impact, but the audio and visual effects along with the amount of ghosts you can eat in a row saves it for me. There aren't as many ghosts as in Pac-Mania, but say hello to Kinky. I mean, Kinzo? Which is it? I don't remember these being the names of the ghosts, except Pinky, I guess. Anyways, Kinky here is pretty much always blue, so you can eat him whenever to get into a state of a power pellet and eat the other ghosts. But to combat this, he has the ability to fuse with one of the 4 ghosts, and depending on which one he fuses with, it gives them a buffed power. Like Blinky gains a dash attack, Inky has a mirrored version of himself, Pinky can jump to your location, and Clyde can puke Pac dots onto the map that you have to go and collect. The bastard. Luckily, there are some power-ups that you can use yourself, like the dash panels introducing themselves in Stage 2, and there are some pills that can pop up sometimes that mirror you, make you faster, send all of the ghosts back to the center, and some more. And just in case you needed further proof that this game is an excellent entry in the Pac-Man series, this game has 2-player co-op for the entire game. Now that is absolute tits right there. It makes the game far more enjoyable than it already is. My friend and I actually finished the game. Getting to the very end actually treats you with a fun and creative final boss that works well for Pac-Man. Pac-Man Arrangement is awesome. S tier. Easily. This is a great way to spice up Pac-Man in a fun and appealing way. One of my favorites for sure.
And everybody thought Pac-Man Arrangement was so good, they made it again for the PSP. Nostalgic, isn't it?
So, they went and made another Pac-Man Arrangement game. Yeah, this isn't a remake for the PSP. This is a completely different game from the arcade version. I don't know why, but I find it funny how this was released less than a decade after the arcade version. It does contain some bits from the arcade version though, like the dash panels, the name, some of the locations, and that's about it. Where's Kinky? I'd imagine this looks great on a PSP, but this UI looks disgusting on a 1080p screen. It's so jagged and rough. Let me calm down though, I don't want to sound like I'm being too negative because this is still a very good game. Despite the bland UI, I do think the game looks quite nice. I'm not against this style at all, even if I do personally prefer how the arcade version looks, and the sound design and music are both very high quality. Similar to the arcade version, this game is sort of like a Pac-Man game with many different gimmicks and elements to make each new maze unique. Including some I didn't spot before, like these doors that open and close, elevators that take you to a different level of the maze, conveyor belts, and even a power-up that gives you a charge dash. Also, one thing I really like doing is building the dash meter by just going through multiple dash pads, and also this spot where you can build speed by going around in circles. That was really cool. There are also boss fights! Meh. I don't know, they aren't the worst, but they really aren't that interesting to me, even compared to the final boss of Pac-Man Arrangement on the arcade. I like the third boss a little, where you have to jump over these lasers and stuff, but a lot of them just involve a big ghost running around a basic maze, and you gotta eat all the smaller ghosts that come out whenever you get a power pellet to win. I just like the regular maze levels better. I like the ideas they put into this PSP version of Pac-Man Arrangement, but ultimately I like the arcade version far more, and I'm gonna settle with the B tier on this game. It's a very good game, there's some cool mechanics, and I like the style they went with, UI aside. But ultimately, I think the arcade version is way better. The reason it isn't an A tier, despite being very good, is that I feel like games like Pac-Mania and Pac-Man Arrangement Arcade had a lot more innovation and are ultimately much more timeless. I feel like in a few years, Pac-Man Arrangement console is gonna look rather dated, more than it already sort of does. Plus the boss battles aren't really that great. Still really good game, but it isn't in top tier in my opinion.
Well, after all of this, I can see a war starting outside, so I should probably go lie down before something bad happens.
Happy moon bunnies! The entire world has gone into a sea of flames! It's a war zone out here! Somebody must have dropped some hot, spicy gaming tape that was too much for the entire world to handle! Oh, hey Platinum Warpstar, how you been, buddy?
Jesus Christ, it's Star Sanity 64!
Phew, that was a close one. At least it's more peaceful up here in the stars and skies. And as for that name, Star Sandy 64, man, that takes me back, down memory lane. Last time I used that name, I was still a furt. I don't think anyone even calls me by that anymore. I'm a bunny now. Hey, a nice little place I can go down to.
Wait, what?
Ah, this is much better. Oh, by the way, I go by Starbun now. Or, Starlight Star Bunny. Name pending. Hee.
Uh-huh. Well, anyway, I should probably get going.
Not so fast, Platinum Warpstar. I'm not done with you yet. Ooh, a strawberry. Good stuff. Anyway. What do I smell here? Warpstar? You've been playing Pac-Man, haven't you? And I'm a little shocked. You didn't invite me? This cuddly star bunny? For shame. For shame, Platinum Warpstar.
Oh, I can explain that.
Oh, I bet, Platinum Warpstar. Oh, I bet. But do you want to know what else I bet? I bet you can't beat my high score in the original Pac-Man. Or Super Pac-Man, take your pick. Hey, a token. Good stuff. Very good stuff. But yeah, like I said, I don't think you can beat my high score. Me. Unless you think that you can.
Is that a challenge?
Well, I mean, I do like a good challenge every once in a while. Myself included. And of course, seeing others do challenges as well there too. It's a nice little thrill ride. But from what I heard, Platinum Warpstar, you're still in the hot seat. Because from what I heard, Platinum Warpstar apparently only played the Game Boy Advance version of Pac-Man World 1 on the Game Boy Advance and not the superior PlayStation 1 version of the game. Like, come on! That's almost the equivalent of rejecting a girl or a boy at the dance. Like, why would you do that? Why would you debase yourself and stoop down that low?
We don't talk about that.
That's almost as bad as saying there that Pac-Man was never good to begin with. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised there too that you would end up causing that war zone out there or something. Sheesh, I shouldn't let you live this down, Warpstar.
Okay, I didn't have a PS1 back then. I'm sorry that I had a different childhood from other people. Anyway, I accept your challenge.
Alright, now we're talking, Platinum Warpstar. Game on! Well, in that case there, I will see you at the championships, Mr. Warpstar. And I hope that you have a good time. I'll be waiting for you.
Wait, what championship? Ow! Oh, I get it.
Well, now this is interesting. Here we have a modern console Pac-Man maze game done by the creator of Pac-Man himself, Toru Iwatani. Last time he worked on the Pac-Man series was with Pac-Mania, and before that, his last game he did was Time Crisis, I think. I could be wrong. Now, surely this game is simply just a nostalgia-based product that is meant to capitalize on the previous success of the Pac-Man series in an attempt to enter the new digital game store market. Are you fucking kidding me? What are these assumptions? You better get that stinking thinking out of your head. This game fucking rocks hardcore. Toru Iwatani the man is still at it, baby, making masterpieces and absolute gems. He still knows what he's doing, making tightly designed kick-ass games like the legend he is. If you even doubted his ability for a second, you must be foolish. He's out here making 10 out of 10 video games. You better come see me after class, you absolute buffoon. Pac-Man Championship Edition. I don't know exactly what makes this a Championship Edition, but okay, I'll work with it. This game was released for PSN and Xbox Live Arcade in 2007, around the time the digital market for games was reaching more popularity. And this game fucking kicks ass! This game is yet another shakeup of the maze formula, but in possibly the most bombastic and chaotic way yet. What we have here is a maze that fully embraces widescreen, not unlike Pac-Man Arrangement console, but instead of seeing how far you can make it in the game to score the most points as possible, now you have to get as many points as possible under a 5 to 10 minute time limit. And so what happens here is that we get the full Pac-Man arcade experience cranked up to 11 in a small time frame. The game speed has been upped immensely, and it only gets faster the farther in you get. See, there are two sides of each level, and if you clear all the Pac dots on one half of the level, a fruit will spawn on the other side, and when you pick it up, it refreshes the side you cleared into an entirely different maze with new Pac dots to collect, and you keep doing that with each side to score as many points as possible while avoiding the 4 ghosts with their classic AI just like good old Toru Iwatani envisioned. That's basically the gist of the gameplay spread out across 6 different stages, but some slight tweaks to the game really up it to some of the best this series has to offer. For one, if you die, it's more so like you're losing health in a normal game than anything, since you respawn in the same spot after a few seconds and carry on immediately. This punishes you by slowing the pace of the game down, but not enough to make you want to stop playing. And one genius addition I love is that whenever you hold a direction against the wall to make a sharp turn, now there are sparks along the wall to indicate that you are about to cut a corner. Incredible change, I love that. And all of this works wonders with the visual design and sound design. Pixel art of the original game is back, but now splashed in a gradient paint to give all of the character sprites a sleek and clean modern look. And on top of that, all of the characters now all glow, so that way if you're focused on Pac-Man, you can get a general idea of where the ghosts are relative to you, which is taken advantage of in the darkness level. It's surprising how well Pac-Man works with a darkness gimmick. The mazes themselves now sport a much more rounded look with a glow effect to them, sort of like neon lights you'd see on a restaurant sign or something. Unfortunately, since this game is in 720p, the image can look rather fuzzy, but it looks great on a smaller screen or from a distance. And all of this ties into the sound design, which is mostly the same as the original, but now the audio is of much better quality, and grabbing a power pellet turns the entire maze red to enlist fear in the ghosts as you rush over to munch them for maximum points. And the noise made when eating them now has a slight reverb effect to it, which gives it even more impact. Not to mention the particles that appear on the screen the higher your score is while eating them, and the freaking numbers! You have no idea how satisfying it is to rack up an insane power pellet combo in this game. You grab one, eat a few, then grab another, and watch as the more you eat, the number grows larger in size, the particles fly out farther, and the pitch of the sound effect gets higher and higher until you peak with 3,200 points per ghost eaten. It is so incredibly satisfying, it's hard to even describe in a way other than to just tell you to play the game for yourself. But is it as good as the original Pac-Man? Yes. This isn't a surprise, but this is possibly the easiest S tier on the list. My only complaints with this one is that there's only one music track, which is a great track. I love how it gets more intense the closer you are to time running out. But I do wish there were more, and it's also unfortunate that there are only 6 stages, which I suppose is understandable given this is a $7 to $8 digital game. But I guess I wish there was more because most of the stages have the timer last 10 minutes, which is a little too long for my liking. I do think the deluxe version of this game tops it though. I almost wish it was in this collection, but it is sold separately still for $10 on Steam, though the changes in deluxe pretty much make it feel like a completely different game in my opinion. The original Championship Edition is still amazing though. It's so fun to come back again and again, get the highest score, and beat all of your friends in each of the stages. Actually, I think that's why it's called Championship Edition.
Good God, there are so many Pac-Man games. What could they possibly do with the Pac-Man series next? Are you fucking kidding me?
So the next 2 games are mini-games featured in the Namco Museum collection on the Wii. Okay, well, since these are mini-games, I guess they deserve mini reviews because I expected to be looking at full-ass releases today. Pac-Motos is a reskin of Motos, another one of Namco's games. You gotta ram your Pac face into everything off the stage, and sometimes there are boss fights, which are probably the best parts of the game. It isn't my thing. Feels slapped onto this collection. D tier. Multiplayer doesn't even save at this time. Not awful, but it's clear this was intended for a minigame collection, so it really should have stayed there.
Goodness gracious, I'm so glad I can finally play something that's not Pac-Man. Surely there's nothing that could possibly replace this, right? Why?
Pac-N-Roll Remix has you rolling Pac-Man like a ball through a numbers stage. Oh wait, this was originally a DS game that was ported to the Wii through this same Namco Museum? Well, would you look at that? Let's see what we have here. According to the DS game, our story here has a young Pac-Man visiting the Pac-Master to go to the Harvest Festival as they harvest new power pellets, while Pac-Man goes to see his crush, Miss Pac-Man. Aww, better enjoy that relationship while it lasts, Pac-Man. Trust me. However, the ghosts have resurrected the legendary ghost known as Golvis, who decided to transform all of the Pac people into balls and takes all of them away except for our lovable Corn Boy. And so he has to man up to save all of them and become a Pac-Man. Now then, on to what this game is based off of in this Wii version. The game is your typical labyrinth ball roller, but with Pac. He can dash for a burst of speed, he can brake to halt all momentum, and there are power-ups to assist him, which are the power pellets that let you eat ghosts as per usual. There's the feather hat that decreases the speed of your descent. Armor increases the weight and strength of Pac-Man while also allowing underwater traversal. I gotta say, this game is pretty fun. I like the levels quite a bit. It can be fun trying to nab all the Pac dots in a level. It looks nice and colorful. This ain't no monkey ball, but it's a good marble game that I imagine must have been interesting with the DS's touch controls. The only thing I don't really like are the boss fights. They're all against Golvis, and I don't like them too much. I'd rather just play the tightly designed labyrinths. But yeah, we have a solid Pac-Man ball rolling game. It's a win in the Book of Warpy. Surely there's nothing else wrong with this. This version doesn't contain all of the content from the DS game and is missing 2 worlds, some boss fights, and story bits. Okay, I get it. This was released in a minigame/arcade game collection on the Nintendo Wii, but god damn it, a vast majority of the stages are already here in Remix. Could they not have included the full thing alongside the story beats? It feels like there's a large chunk of game that I'm missing out on here. Plus, it's even more bizarre in the collection I'm playing because I was under the assumption that all 14 of these games were standalone releases for Pac-Man, but these two are mini-games from a minigame collection. Now, I know that Pac-Man Arrangement console was also from another compilation on the PSP called Namco Museum Battle Collection, which contained arrangement versions for every game. But at least that sort of felt like a complete experience. These two come out of a collection that contains several other minigames that have Pac-Man in it, and something feels incomplete knowing that not all of them are in this collection. With that said, I'm still going to be giving Pac-Man World Remix a B tier. It's a solid game with good level design, and despite some wonky physics here or there, the game's still fun to play. I even ended up finishing it. Gee, I sure wonder where those games are. I very much would like to give them a go, but too bad they only released on a decade-old console!
Surely. Fucking Fortnite. Surely. There is nothing that could possibly replace fucking Fortnite.
You all thought Pac-Man 99 was the first Pac-Man Battle Royale game? Bitch, please! Pac-Man Battle Royale is the most recent Pac-Man arcade game that debuted as the multiplayer Pac-Man game. Unfortunately, since my area seems to hate fun, there is absolutely no Pac-Man Battle Royale station near my area, and the day I find one will be a day I kneel down and thank the stars. It's not even like they're rare or anything, they just don't exist where I am. I swear, you all get the cool arcade cabinets. Any arcade places near me, I'll direct you to where the real epic arcade games are at. They're right here. And while you're at it, bring over Mario Kart Arcade GP DX and Luigi's Mansion Arcade because I'm tired of seeing all these bootleg Plants vs. Zombies games with terrible frame rates. Sorry, I'm getting way too sidetracked. The game has you and 3 other Pac-fuckers messing around the maze, minding your own business until you find a power pellet, where your objective is to then eat all the other players and reign in glorious victory.
I will avert my fate by not being the first to die.
Oh fuck.
Now this is that good shit. Grab a number of your friends and have a fun old time as you run away from the larger ones in fear just like these guys. Fittingly, since this is the first time it's been re-released since the previous Pac-Man Museum game with that thing that got removed from Steam, this was one of the reasons I bought this whole collection in the first place. It's also why I recommend getting this collection on Steam, because you can use Steam Remote Play or Parsec to stream your game to your friends' PCs and play online multiplayer since this collection doesn't have it. And when you do get 4 people in on the action, this game is a freaking blast.
Oh goodness.
Oh fucking shit!
It just smelled like...
It's like a really cool last man standing kind of thing. This one is highly replayable since there are a number of different mazes that cycle for each 5-round session. Not only that, but while the premise is simple, there's a good bit of depth and strategy to this game. See, you can bump into the other players and send the 2 of you back a fair and equal distance, even curving around turns in the maze. Using this, if you're sadistic enough, you can try to catch other players off guard and bump them into the classic 4 ghosts. Or, if you want to be cooperative, even other Pac-Man if you have a power pellet.
Thanks for bumping into me, Scorpy.
There's even a purpose to the ghost, since when you eat one, your speed slightly increases, giving you a bit of a chance to catch up to a player that may be slightly too far away. And the further you get in the match, the faster the game gets, increasing the tension by a long shot. There is a lot of crazy shit that can happen in this game, and thus makes it highly replayable and a boatload of fun that will make you want to pump in quarters for several minutes if you find it in an arcade. I freaking love this shit. You know what I really want to do one day? I want to stumble into an arcade and find this beautiful version of the cabinet. The common ones are these that are sort of laid out like an air hockey table or something, which I suppose makes sense for the game's UI. This is a great little multiplayer Pac-Man game. I'll slap it in A tier. I have the balls to do so. The only reason it isn't an S is because it's really quite boring to play by yourself since there's only one really low-level CPU you go against. Kinda lame. But other than that, this game is pretty fantastic. And hey, I'm serious, arcade places that are close to me, I'll show you where the good ones are. Maybe I'll pitch in some of the budgets so you can buy a couple of good cabinets for yourselves. Please, I'm begging you, I'm not flying all the way to another state or country just to play on some cabinets. I am being handed a note.
Dear Platinum Warpstar, you did not do your research for this part of your video, so I guess I'll have to do it for you. A new arcade place opened up nearby, and it has cool new arcade machines there, including your beloved Mario Kart Arcade GP. Go now. Fulfill your destiny. Well, I don't have to be convinced otherwise. It's time to go. Pack your bags, guys. We're going to a motherfucking new arcade place that opened up. Pronto.
Well, this sure reminds me of a game I gotta play later. Thankfully, yes, they actually had it there. Now, funnily enough, this all is convenient for the video because Mario Kart Arcade GP DX was made by Namco, just like all the other Mario Kart Arcade GP games. So, yep, this is a Pac-Man game too. Except in this one, they're using that version. Oh god. It's interesting because this is completely different from any other Mario Kart game out there, and thus has a different charm to it.
The item button doesn't work.
Thank you for bringing this game over to where I am, and please don't take it away this time.
Goodness.
And now, as inspiring and emotional as this journey has been, it is time to take a look at the final Pac-Man game for this ranking video. And it released for mobile phone devices.
Well, here it is, the latest release in this collection and the last game we're going to be looking at in this video. Pac-Man 256. Generous of them to add this one in considering it's already on all major platforms except for the Switch for $5. But that version is kinda obsolete now, and I'm honestly surprised they didn't take it off store shelves like most video game companies tend to do. I'm not saying they should do that, but it's surprising. Pac-Man 256 was a mobile game created by the creators of Crossy Road. Remember that game? And it was later released as a digital console title later on with 0 microtransactions. I like it when they do that to mobile games, it helps preserve them better. This game is an endless Pac-Man stage that has you traveling upwards to escape the 256 virus. And the 256 in the title is because of a glitch in the original Pac-Man that has the textures freak out on the 256th maze, making the game nearly unplayable after that point. Okay, so maybe Pac-Man is dated in one element. But the 256 virus is mainly there to ensure that you aren't in the same spot on the maze for too long and forces you to move upwards to get as far as possible. If they planned to make Pac-Man into an endless runner format, this was probably the best way to go about it. This game is, admittingly, quite epic. There's several skins you can play with, so you can choose what style you want the game to be in, even a number of non-Pac-Man skins. There's a number of different ghosts in this game with unique AI depending on their color. Green and purple ghosts are usually found in groups, going horizontally across the maze. Cyan ghosts go around in circles. Pink ghosts will dash towards direction if you're in their line of sight. Gray ghosts will give chase if you get too close to them, and a lot more than I haven't mentioned. It's a lot of fun trying to get past each of them and learning how each of them work. Not only are you encouraged to go back and beat your high score each time, but eating a number of Pac Dots contributes to unlocking the many power-ups in this game. You can equip 3 to appear in the maze at a time, and by collecting the game's coins, you can even upgrade them to last longer or do more damage to the ghosts around you. Pac-Man 256 is a great mobile game translated really well to a home console Pac-Man game with added multiplayer co-op. How cool is that? The co-op mode gets an entirely different score tally since in this mode, you can revive defeated players by coming across this spinning Pac-Man symbol, and you're back in the action.
Now you're back. And now you're dead again.
I actually think the multiplayer is even more enjoyable than the single player. The co-op in this game is really well done. This gets an A tier. It's a very addicting game that gets what Pac-Man is and provides a nice spin on the formula that I enjoy coming back to from time to time. Holy shit, I did not think this would be that hard. There are 14 Pac-Man games. I thought this would be quick and simple, but I guess not. Well, if you're interested in any of these games, go try them. They're available on, like, everything. I'm gonna go wait for Pac-Man World Re-Pac.
Pac-Man is truly one of the world's greatest gaming icons, and he deserves to be recognized much more. As much as the series has had its ups and downs, Pac-Man definitely deserves another chance in the big spotlight when Pac-Man World Re-Pac comes out, and I pray that that game sells well. Well, I don't know what to do now. I feel like my journey has been complete. I have no idea what's next for me. I feel like it's almost a certain time, though. And I was just thinking the same thing. Oh yeah, bitch. Stay tuned for next time.
Ah, man, after all this, I'm just gonna take it easy and have a piece of pizza. Are you fucking serious?